The number of confirmed cases across the world quickly rises.
We all need to take steps to reduce close human contact.
You are not immune. People should stay indoors and stay safe.
Look out yourself.
Cool, now we are already in section number 3 of the solo, and it sounds like this. So it's a neat little phrase here, which is basically B flat, A, G, and F. So it all fits neatly into the scale of D minor still. And we are playing the 11th and 10th fret on the B string and the 12th and 10th fret on the G string. And this is going to be the first time that we're playing 16th notes. Those are 16th notes, short burst of them. And the first thing we do is that we are sliding into the B flat from some note below. I say some because it's not really any particular one. So you could be doing this from D or from F or even from C. Same thing, just depends on how long this slide is able to be. And just a quick tip on how to get these slides from downwards or from below into a higher note to be more convenient for you guys. If you struggle with that, try not to focus your eyesight on the note that you're starting on. So just as an example, if we are starting on the F here on 6th fret and we want to slide into the B flat, don't try to look at the F, just try to feel this fret and where you are with your middle finger in this case, but instead focus your eyes on the target note, on the fret where you want to land up. And you sort of like build a little laser barrier here. So focusing on the 11th fret, and no matter where you start, once that finger crosses the laser barrier, you can have just an easier time telling it to stop sliding, and you can stop the movement. Because you're so focused on that one fret. So that is basically my tip for it. Don't focus on where you start sliding visually, but focus visually on where the slide is supposed to end. Right, and this is basically the first thing you do. You slide into this, the middle finger, and I personally also move my index finger around the same way, which is, as you can see, stretched out so that it will mute those neighboring strings G and E. And now, after the band is done, I will bring my index finger into this position, so this movement occurs. So now that it rests on the 10th fret, I can start pulling off to that note, A, and alternating between those two. Until I do another hammer-on the 12th fret of the G string. And another hint here, I would not recommend practicing these two things, these two types of hammer-ons individually, because you really do not want to break up the evenness of the phrase in terms of sound. What I mean is that you want to have these hammer-ons and pull-offs on one string sound just as loud and powerful, or quiet if you want to, as this note, as this going from one string to the next. And that may be hard to do at first because you have a slow or a tiny radius on this one string, meaning that the fingers that do the legato thing are not really going up and down, in a big way. But it's a small movement. They don't go away from the fretboard very much. But then if you go to the G string, it's a bigger movement for a bigger radius. So it's very easy to do these small and tiny hammer-ons here and then do a big forceful one there. But what you want to do is have a nice and even flow between those and not a big spike in dynamics at the end. Right, so for me personally, I would even tone down that one hammer-on on the G string a little bit so that the other ones feel more like in line dynamically. All right, so that is the beginning. And then we go to F on the G string. And I'm basically doing a thing here, a little phrasing detail that I do very often, just to give some notes more personality. It's kind of a bluesy thing, right? Because in blues, it is not only acceptable, but also encouraged to bend notes out of tune. Right? You want to really squeeze those bends, even in between the right notes. That was a bit too much, I guess. But the same idea can be used in many other different circumstances. For example, in this note, instead of just doing a nice vibrato, I am doing this little jerky movement, which is not really a bend. It's not really bending to a particular note. It's not that. But what it is I'm bringing my thumb up here, so that thumb becomes our anchor, and it prevents the hand from going out of that 10th position. And now I'm lifting up these other fingers in the air, and I'm jerking the entire hand into this direction, just really quickly. It's sort of the same motion that you would make after you've washed your hands, and wash your hands, guys, especially now. But you wash your hands and you still have some liquid on it, right? And then you do this quick movement to brush off the water, right? So that is the same thing, because you are building up a little bit of tension really quickly, and then you release that tension just as quickly, right? And that is what we're doing here. Building the tension by jerking our hands in this direction, but also releasing it just as quickly. And then that lets the band return to the original note. And then we go back to the G, which is played more straightforward with a nice little bend. And you can just stay in that same position, 10th position, thumb being on top of the neck. And when you bring in when you leave the 10th, when you leave that index finger on the 10th fret while you are doing this vibrato thing, and you can also bring in the middle finger on the 11th fret, then you have so much more control over the way that you're playing this vibrato. So the more fingers you have going on the fretboard at the same time, the more intimate control you are going to have about the width of the band. And of course, over the sustain. Right, and so in total we have 2 times this lick. And I think that's it for today, and I will be seeing you in the next section.